everyone. Today we are the global S&OP community. As you know, tell us please, where are you coming in from and logging in from? And as you know, the global S&OP community is information you won't find in books, and knowledge you will not find in books. It's through experience and of course through our lovely guests that we are having every week with you. Khaled, how are you doing in Saudi Arabia?
Everything is good, Hamamsi. I'm so glad and I'm so excited today because it's our first episode related to customer development and sales. So with a special guest today, re-stressing again into our mission. Our mission is to build a global S&OP community where everyone's voice can be heard and can be listened. So as we always saying also that the aim from this, it's we are sharing experience, struggles, stories, and experience from everywhere around the world. Knowledge you will never find in books. So we are waiting for your interaction today. Today we have a very special episode.
Yes.
Maybe many people, they are compelled and they don't know about what we're talking about today. That's why we need your engagement and your question, especially with our special guest.
Yes, of course, we're already having people coming in from all over the world, from Tanzania, from Egypt, Mustafa Sliman.
Great to see
Kenneth,
you,
Donner, our friend. Thank you for joining us.
Great to
I'm
see
Dareen from Saudi Arabia. How are you doing?
He's doing
So
amazing.
let's talk our guest on our guest Khaled for some time. Our guest, of course, had a very strong background. Started his career in brand management and business development in big multinationals like Unilever. He worked in big tobacco companies. He worked in big multinationals like Pepsi and as regional sales director in a lot of big companies. I had the honor, me and you, to work with him, and he's a very pleasant character, of course, to work with. He worked as a sales director also in Americana Group, and of course he has also background in education. So our guest today is worked in a lot of industries. He has years and years of experience in sales, and personally I used to go back to him in anything I need to understand in sales. So without further talking and very excited to have today with me Hassan Gemei. Hassan, how are you doing?
Hello, Khaled. Hello, Ahmed. Hamamsi, thank you so much for hosting me today and for the lovely introduction. I believe, like I mentioned to you before, I'm proud and fond with all the efforts that you guys are doing online, sharing experiences with different people across the world. So I'm very proud to join you today, and I'll try to, as much as possible, to answer all the questions for all the audience that will be attending the session for today. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Thank you, Hassan. Pleasure having you today. Cannot imagine how many messages that we received today about this special episode, because many people are very keen and excited to know what's beyond the sales, because sales, I believe that many people in our network, they don't know too much about sales. That's why we're relying too much on your great experience and values today, inshallah.
Sure, yes. I'll try as much as possible to answer all the questions and provide any support if needed to both of you or to any of the audience today.
Thank you so much, Hassan. Of course, we're waiting for questions from our audience. And to start, tell us, Hassan, how can sales play a tactical role of bridging the business gaps? And of course, the business, we're all working to reach our top and bottom lines. How can this work, especially, for example, in sales and operation? And what's the sales role in that, making sure that we reach our and cover any business gaps?
I believe, Ahmed, that one of the core challenges or important tasks that should be done by any sales team is forecasting. And why am I saying forecasting? Because forecasting It's not only a number that we put in an Excel sheet where the supply chain team, they actually nag about to send during a cycle.
Yes.
But we actually need to understand what's actually happening behind this number. How is this number? How is this you reach this mathematics? So the first foundation stone is that those lovely spreadsheets with lovely SKUs and flavors and everything. For a salesperson, we need to look into the nitty-gritty details when it comes to run rates. I mean, what's the actual run rate or offtake or sales of these specific SKUs? Are there any activations or activities or marketing activities or promotions that is in the cycle or not? So basically, a number should be set, and I believe one of through my experience that the most successful sales managers or even supervisors or even executives are those who actually share the knowledge of sharing how to actually do a forecast. Forecast is not only a number that you take an average and you just pull the cell. Yeah, it's why am I saying this? Because this specific number reflects on several decisions within the organization that could impact drastically the margins. So let me give you an example to make it a bit simpler for our audience. So let's say, for example, if you decide to you overinflated a number in your forecast for a specific SKU. So let's realize that this number is actually shared with the procurement team, with the production team. So the procurement team, the first thing they do, they go and they check their buffer stock of raw materials, whether raw or pack. So if they find that this specific forecast does not, or the raw material and pack is not catering for the specific numbers, then the procurement team struggles to make an additional order for raw and pack that might be more expensive for the company to buy in a very short duration. Some I've seen examples of companies that make air shipments in order to satisfy this specific number.
True.
And needless to mention, the production team, then they might need to work an extra shift. So that's another expense. So and these expenses, they actually reflect on the margin and the number. And needless to mention that ad hoc requests or inaccuracy of forecast can have tremendous implication behind the margin. So my message here to say is that from a sales perspective or as a salesperson, you need to look or think big. When exactly like the message you have behind you, Hamamsi, in your screen. So what I mean by thinking big is you have to think about the supply chain team, the procurement team, the production team, the extra cost that will actually impact your EBITDA indirectly. So I believe that in order to fill the gaps, answering your question, doing a correct forecast, this requires taking into consideration seasonality of your product. Into consideration, you have to look at if there is an activity happening or a marketing campaign happening. So sometimes some companies or some teams I've seen, they actually take benchmarks based on previous launches that they've done. You have the trade structure that's actually in the market, whether it's modern trade, whether it's retailers, wholesalers. You understand from your coverage and from the actual drop size that you intend to do for this specific launch or a specific gap that you actually have, how much or how many cartons and how much in terms of turnover this would actually generate, then we can say that you have a sort of an accurate forecast. I've seen one of the most interesting exercises that I've practiced during one of the companies I've worked for is that we started to map down the SKUs with a very high margin. And we realized that in case that we were able to widespread or to distribute this specific SKU to be equal to the most selling SKU, which is widespread. It has like 95% distribution. This will actually improve the margins as well. So answering your question, forecasting is extremely important. Forecasting, we need to understand what kind of numbers we're putting there. Ad hoc decisions, either by over forecasting or under forecasting, can actually increases the inventory. This inventory in the warehouses of any company is actually money, so it can impact the cash flow as well of the company. So the decision behind forecasting or what's going on behind the scenes, once you plug this number into a specific Excel sheet or a spreadsheet, it's actually a big story that we need to actually focus on and consider in the future.
Hassan, let me tell you that I'm impressed because you're not just covering the downstream, which is the retail side. You're talking about the whole business, and it's the first time to see a sales guy. Rarely when you find a sales guy who is speaking about the end-to-end, the ecosystem of the business end-to-end. So you're covering one of the biggest pain points, which for forecasting, because by default between sales and supply chain, you will see that mostly it's sales. They want to have too much stocks mostly. And a supply chain, in terms of demand, it's unbiased. We are relying too much on data and activities, our baseline, our promotions, our activities, or the innovations. So it's rare to have something like that, because you have really touched a point on forecasting, which is something, it's very rare when you think about that point.
Yes. When it comes to gaps as well, Khalid, one of the most important thing is to map the distribution of your products in the different channels against the retail audit. I mean, how many outlets are you covering in each and every sales channel? What's your reach? What's your highest reach in number of SKUs? Because there are must-stock lists, as we understand. These are the top-weighted SKUs that we have. It has to be available, or they have to be available in specific outlets. Segmentation of outlets are even important. So what I'm trying to say here is doing this exercise, mapping and seeing exactly where are we at and where do we want to go. This will facilitate inserting a certain number forecasting, which is actually reflects on demand planning. Yes, that's basically.
Great, yes. Very important, of course, as Hassan is saying, the segmentation, the targeting and positioning, understand the market size, understand where to go and which channel, to which market, of course, and we welcome, of course, also our great friend and boss, Khalid Madani. Thank you so much for joining us, of course.
Yes, Khalid.
Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Yeah, and we welcome a lot of our audience here also are joining us with their a lot of comments from everywhere. Thank you, Soria, for joining us.
Great to see you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Panda from
She's welcoming you, Hassan.
Nader Salama.
Yeah.
Nader Salama, previous SKUs is very important for forecasting. Nader, yes, we depend on history sometimes. It's a very important part of the forecast, but we must also, as Hassan is saying, look at the real-time data, be close to the markets as much as possible. Muzammal is watching us from Bangladesh. Thank you for joining us.
Good seeing you, Muzammal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think we have a question, Hamamsi, from.
Yeah, let's go.
Right? First question from Ambreen, yes.
Great points about forecasting. However, I would like to ask how to tackle the unprecedented events, such as the phenomenal launch of product by competitors or excessive push of competitors' products in the market. Hassan, your game about competition.
Yes. Okay. So as of course, doing a forecast, it requires an M3 or a 12-month rolling forecast, and there is always ad hoc events that takes place in any market. So let's say if we're talking about a launch of a competition, like our sister Ambreen has mentioned. So in this case, there is something called the market intelligence. So the market of FMCG is basically, if we're talking about multinationals or even local companies or regional companies, we can, through the market intelligence, there is always proper, or I can say there is always a chance that you might know that there is a pre-launch happening from your competition. So it is normal for any company to launch a product. They might be aggressive. They might go and give crazy discounts or crazy offers to the customers in order to penetrate. But this should not be a showstopper. In case of retaliating in the same month, I believe that it would be a wrong move. It's better to understand what your competitor is doing. Your competitor did not wake up in the morning and you find that there is an X company that penetrated. Usually, a competition, they have, let's say, additional lines or new innovations. So basically, there is a dipstick of understanding how my competition reacts. What do they actually do? So my advice when it comes to forecasting, there is no right or wrong answer here. You put the forecast, your factory is producing, your procurement guy bought the raw materials, they're actually producing, you have your products in the warehouses, and you're actually, you get surprised one day that someone is out there is actually pushing back. However, let's talk about customer loyalty. Let's talk about loyalty programs. So if you engage straight with loyalty programs, if you have a solid proof win-win relationship when it comes to customer development agreements with the key accounts, you can always find a way to push back your competition. So let's say, for example, that they try to take shelf space. So if you're protecting your shelf space, your merchandiser is there, your account manager is there, your sales managers are there. They're all actually catering to keep or to provide the best in class service or an excellent service to your customer. You might be finding yourself indirectly pushing back your competition from filling or taking any of your space. So I believe that one thing I'd like to add in this point, and I believe that this is one of the good practices that I've actually adopted during the past years. Market intelligence or competitor intelligence is extremely important to be monitored on weekly and monthly basis. So if you are able to monitor on weekly or monthly basis your competition for a duration of 12 months, you'll be able to understand when they're actually spending, when they are spending their budget, how much they are spending behind their budget. So basically you will have the activity grid of your competitor, and most likely they will replicate the same thing the following year. So you'll be able to have ahead some vision on preempting what your competition will be doing.
Great insights,
I
Hassan.
hope
Very
I
great
answered
insights.
Miss Ambreen.
It's to the point. I believe that you have even added for me too much values on that point. If you allow me, I would add something on that point, because it's all about the strategy of the business. Because it doesn't mean that if the competition is doing very well, I'm talking about in terms of the sellout. The sellout or the EPOS data is going. We need to understand, as you said, what are the activities behind that. It doesn't mean that if the competitor is taking too market share from ourselves, that we need to replicate it, because at the end of the day, what is the ROI of these activities? Maybe there is a different activities, or there is a different business strategy for this specific segment on the competition itself. So it's not about replication. It's all about how you can make sure that you're aligned with the business. Don't replicate. One of the market techniques, I believe that I see it from even consumer goods point of view. They are even promotional driven. They're not working on the business, the brand equity, how they can resonate, how can they understand what their consumer needs. They just easily to push stocks at the consumer end. This, I think, this is a very traditional marketing techniques. That's why it's all not about working about the promotions. How you can make sure that you are positioning the price versus the values of the brand in the right way. This is the right way, not just pushing by promotion. This is one of the things that I see it very common in the consumer goods, pushing stocks, pushing sellout by promotions. But at the end of the day, is it aligned with my business, or I'm not aligned on that?
Exactly right. Go ahead, Hassan.
I can't agree more, Khalid, with your comment there. You find a lot of companies falling into the trap of over promoting, I would say. And when you come and see how much are they selling regular products and how much regular SKUs and how much they're selling actually promoted SKUs, and you find over the number of years that you are coming from 30% promoted, 70% regular into 70% promoted and 30% regular. They even changed, yeah. And this is actually hurting the brand. And this is actually, I would say, it's giving the consumer the wrong messages that I'll wait next time. Probably I'll find there is a promotion that they're actually the competition or a value pack that the company would be offering. So I believe in brand equity is extremely important, and it's very important as well to do a promotion in certain occasions. Yeah. So one of the interesting occasions or promotions that I've seen during my days in the UAE, celebration of the Independence Day. And this was actually a celebration that made sense. Of course, you find seasons like Ramadan, like the Bayram holidays or Eid holidays happening. So I believe the promo regular contribution is important, and over promoting is actually can hurt the DNA, can hurt your profitability. And it won't have an actual meaning. So I'd rather go for a value pack, for instance, rather than a promo pack. So the depth of promotion as well as the value of the promotion is extremely important. That should be studied well.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you dilute the message. I love what you say, because value for money. Maybe the brand values, it's very high, but by our mistake or just, I would say, a blind spot from the company itself, they're diluting the values. So in the perception of the consumer, I used to see this brand, I can see it at the beginning, let's say $20, but now it was a premium, but because of the blind spot, as I say, 50% off, now it's $10. So you dilute the value of the brand itself. So when I come the next time, I will see it. If I see it by $20, I saw it before by $10. So I will be waiting till it comes $10, and I will not come again. This is the thing.
It is very challenging, Khalid, nowadays. I mean, these past months or past year where actually COVID hit. So there are zillions of speculation. When will it end? So many companies, they tended to promote and over promote to ensure that they're saving their market share, saving their market share and generating turnover. So yes, and I believe that I hope that COVID ends by the end of this year, hopefully. So everything goes to norm, because it's actually impacting forecasting. It's impacting everything. I mean, the whole value chain was impacted big time.
Yeah.
Totally agree, Hassan, of course. And like you were saying about promoting, I think, of course, when COVID hits, everybody did over promoting to save their market share. But as a rule, companies should mix between branding and having a message that's about talks about their brand, about their values, and promotions, to make sure that they don't lose the value of the brand and the brand equity. So totally agree about your points, Khalid and Hassan, of course.
Thank you.
And we have a lot of guests coming in. Muhammad, I'm saying great job, guys.
Our big friend.
Yes.
Great to see you, Muhammad. Thank you.
Agatha from Poland, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pragmeta from India. Thank you, Prag, also for joining us, saying marketplace intelligence is critical. like we're talking about the market intelligence. Thank you, Frank, for joining us. Our friend Shadi Jackie from Egypt, he has a question. What are the best actions should be taken during maturity stage of the product life cycle, Hassan?
That's a very good question. I've actually worked for a company where they were in a category where they actually reached around 88% market share. And it was pretty much difficult after some basic fundamentals. We worked on some basic fundamentals, and this is the maximum we could have reached. And they hit plateau. So the question was there, what to do? Yeah. So one of the interesting solutions was to look at line extensions, new innovations, presenting different packs, bigger sizes in case to increase the consumption of consumers, especially when it comes to food or even home and personal care sometimes. So answering the question is, if there is a strength and there is a good connection with and you have a very strong footprint of distribution in a specific market, and you have very strong relationship with the customers, it's always an opportunity to go and extend in new categories. Categories that if you are in the food business, let's do or penetrate categories in the food business. There is also always the chance of cross-promoting your new product with the existing product, which will actually induce trial, and you can actually build your new product or new innovation and give it a chance to flourish more and being consumed by more consumers.
Great answer, I think. Yeah,
amazing. I love this point because I had a study on this maturity. So if you allow me also, I add something on that point, maturity, because during the maturity, I believe it's something between 1 month to 3 months post the launch of the product itself. And this is the most critical, I see, the most critical period of the launch. Why I'm saying this? If you want to have a successful launch, I'm assuming that you're developing everything during the development stage, that you put everything, as Hassan said, that the market insights was right, the pricing positioning is right, the promotional intensity was right, everything was right, build up on that. I believe that the laser focus on this point, especially in the maturity itself, make sure that the business case that you built it by customer and the distribution, the weighted distribution, the market distribution by customer is being aligned with your actual numbers. Because if there is any misalignment at that point, I'm telling you, this will be the devastation of maturity. And some of the innovations are lost at this point. Why I'm saying this point? Because I see it, most companies in that point, when they see some customers, they listed the SKUs on that point and they have too much sellout, what they do, they list it across all customers. So what will happen? Here it comes the unbalance between the demand and the supply. So sometimes, yes, I have the availability, there is demand, but just tracking the signals between demand and supply, it's very important, because if you list the SKUs in one point and give it to a customer, this will affect drastically in the long term. Why I'm saying this? If assume with me that an SKU with a longer lead time, you are just looking into whatever in the pipeline and the stocks in your supply chain nodes. But if I in a short period, if I have an increase 200%, 300% in my forecast, what will happen is I will give it, but I have limited stocks. And this is even devastate the innovation at the end of the day. Why? Some of the customers, Hassan, I believe also you are facing this. Some of the customers, they have in the contract, if I raise an order, let's say for consecutive 2 months, I will discontinue this from my portfolio. I will not be able to have it. So what will happen? You have double effect. You will lose sales. At the same time, I raise order based on the new forecast, and it comes, I have high coverage, and then below shelf lifetime. And this innovation got the out from the market.
Got damage before it. Yes.
That's why it's very essential in that point. And it's moving. That's why it's all about the stories we have. We're reflecting, we're sharing experience. So looking in the business case, make sure, especially in the first 3 months, that try to balance the supply and demand. At the same time, keep the laser focus that you make sure that your on-shelf availability is there, make sure that your distribution is there, and make sure that you are aligning with your business case.
100%.
One of
Yes. Go ahead,
I
Hassan.
can't agree with you, Khaled. Sorry to interrupt you, Hamamsi.
No.
One of the answering the question of maturity, for instance, we find companies like PepsiCo or Coca-Cola. Yeah. So
Yes.
they're actually selling Coca-Cola and Pepsi. It's different packs, different price points. Yeah. But they're actually relying more on their marketing agenda. So they
Yes.
actually choose a celebrity, a persona, differentiate or make a message in each and every campaign. So PepsiCo and Coca-Cola are examples of companies that already their brand did not reach maturity, although they're not doing much of innovation. Yeah, somehow. So you find Pepsi, for example, they might launch seasonal drinks or soda during certain seasons, like summer, like Eid, for instance. So I wanted to share this example about the product life cycle and how companies they tend to
Yes.
go
Yes.
around that, like PepsiCo and Coca-Cola.
You're right. Sometimes they're introducing like something organic, sometimes less sugar with the stevia, with flavored.
Absolutely,
So I think
absolutely.
it's like they're making news because also if Coke makes for example, advertising, Pepsi has to reply, has to make something new. So
For
this is
sure,
like the
for
war
sure.
between
The never-ending war.
the big fish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially in trades. In trade,
Yes.
they actually shove down the customer throats fridges and spaces and pay lots of money. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Hassan, I have one question in my mind, and then we can jump into the next question from our
Yeah.
audience.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
I've been there into the backdoor selling, and it's distributing, it is disturbing the whole cycle and network of our existing route to market. So, from your experience, I believe that you had this experience a lot, and you understand the route to market, how it looks like. From your experience, if you can share even with our audience, what is the backdoor
Of course.
selling, and how it affects the P&L and the income statement of the company that they are short-sighted in the short term.
Okay, very good question. So I would actually metaphorically say that the backdoor selling is like shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. So let me first explain what is backdoor selling. Backdoor selling is actually, let's say you have a modern trade account. You're giving this modern trade a back margin, which is basically the CDA discounts, whether they're fixed or variable. Whether they're and you decide, in order to generate more sales, I'll pump some stocks or sell some stocks to this specific modern trade.
Okay.
And then what does this modern trade does? I mean, either two things. Either they encourage the wholesale buying, so they start communicating with wholesalers that are available in the market, that actually the same company is actually catering for, giving them a price which is below the price list that the sales rep is giving by maybe, let's say, 10%. So what happens in a market? Every single wholesaler diverts towards this modern trade, buys from this modern trade, and then the retail or the down trade actually can't buy anything, can't sell anything.
Yeah.
Okay, how is this impacting the P&L? It's impacting the P&L because you'll find that the average discount you're giving to a wholesaler or to retail, an approximation of, let's say, 5 to 6%, while you're giving to the modern trade around 20-25%. So basically, you've generated more sales with the modern trade, which is more expensive because you have a contractual agreement, you're binding to this contractual agreement in order to you have to abide to, while the other part of the trade is actually froze because they bought from the modern trade. So what is the correct practice? The correct practice, and this is very important. So we mentioned earlier during our conversation regarding forecast and regarding baseline and regarding run rate. So in order to avoid such incidences, it is empirically important that each and every sales executive who's managing a modern trade understands the basic run rate actually of the modern trade itself.
Wow.
And actually builds a single or a double-digit growth over this run rate based on any activity, innovation, campaign, so on and so forth. But doubling, tripling, quadrupling the run rate actually mean one thing, that they will be selling backdoor, they will disrupt the whole cycle, the company will end up selling a lot of products, a big turnover of sales. Yet, from the other channel, it would create disruption in the market. It will impact negatively wholesalers or even small retailers. Will negatively impact the relationship with the sales rep with the company, and it will create a big disturbance. And then, in order for any company to let's say fix it, they have to probably spend more money in the wholesale and small retailers in order to adjust the situation somehow.
Amazing, Hassan. Amazing. You gave the story. It's easy and simple and to the point. One of the things that came into my mind, Hassan, it's also about how you are compensating the retail or the modern trade, because sometimes the companies, they're compensating based on the sellout, and sometimes you're compensating based on the sell-in. And if I believe if you're compensating based the promotions or the claims based on the sell-in, here it comes the first problem, because how you will be able to make sure that even the money, it's been invested to the consumer, it's been sent to the consumer, because it's now maybe you don't understand how this will be a retail promotion, or how it comes to the pocket of the customer, and how much was going to the consumer. I believe also looking at these strategies and building a rapport with the customer itself, and building real contract and the relationship on that point, this will also avoid some of the disruptions that happens in the backdoor selling.
I can't agree more with you. I think that CDA or customer development agreements with the modern trade is one of the crucial binding documents that both parties should benefit from. So, and it should be built on a win-win mindset. So basically, if we look at or dissecting customer development agreement, some customer development agreements, they have fixed rebates and variable rebates.
Yes.
So fixed rebates are actually they're covering either space on the shelf, which is pre-agreed, and usually it should be equivalent to the market share of the company that's actually doing this agreement. The fixed rebate could actually cover as well some of the display points or visibility points at the store. Variable rebates are basically built on the sales. Yeah, it's like a sort of slabs. If you buy with this amount of money, you'll get this percentage, so on and so forth. Going back to your question regarding are we overselling or underselling in a store, it's quite simple. Nowadays, most stores or most modern trade, they tend to share their data. So basically, you're hands-on on their sell-out. So you understand their sell-out, and some of them, they actually provide that by day. So you can actually monitor the weekend rate and the week's rate. And for a specific accurate demand forecast or a forecast, or even to avoid incidences like backdoor, you can always go back to the data sharing. You can always look at the run rate. You understand that there's, of course, a buffer stock, which is, let's say, a week by SKU, by flavor, to ensure that you would never, ever run out of stock from the shelves. So I believe this is somehow could be or is actually the right way to look after the specific offtake when it comes to consumer and making sure that you're selling the right quantities or turnover to the customers.
Thank you, Hassan.
Great, Hassan.
Thank you so much.
Amazing points. Thank you so much. Of course, we have a lot of engagement and questions coming in from everybody. We have Amr here. He's talking about, we're highlighting points about marketing and sale activities, then supply side activities, how to engage demand side in S&OP process and increase their belief in integrating the process, just pushing for supply. I think Amr here is talking about, yes, balancing demand and supply, like we were talking about, and demand job, of course, is Amr is part of it, is to be engaged daily with marketing and sales, meeting with the distributors even. During our days with Hassan, I'd go and meet the distributor or sit with Hassan to understand because you have to understand from the people on the ground what's happening in sales. Why this product sales is going up, why this promotion is happening, and record this, and why this promotion succeeded, why this activity succeeded or failed. So this part of integrating demand with marketing and sales. And demand is always the focal point between the commercial side and the supply team side, from the material and production.
Yeah.
To answer your point.
Yes, Hamza, I think that you have nailed it totally. Adding to that point, it's all about demand shaping. Because if you don't understand the shape of demand and what are the drivers in your organization or your category, I would assume, or in your business, you'll not be able to control anything. And my assumption for Amr, or just my advice in that point, I believe it's all about relying on the history. Just get over all the activities that left up all the sales in that point. Try to generate your baseline by customer or whatever forecasting level that you will have in your even discussion, your S&OP with your sales. I'm not sure how the hierarchy in your sales, but try to deliver all of this and aggregate it on the level of the discussion with the sales and operational planning with your sales team. When you have this assumption, when you have this baseline agreed between sales and marketing and supply chain, you will be able to cater for, because the matter after that, you will be looking into the future. So I will have all my activities. This activity is going to this, let's say, channel. I have this discount percentage. I have this innovation, all of this. You will be able to build up all the total forecast. But if you speak generic, you'll not be able to push anything, or you'll not be able to convince anyone. My advice: just look into the data, build the right assumptions, document it, and then reflect on it after the sales happen.
Yeah, great point. Go, Hassan, please add your point. Of course, this is your game.
Yeah. I want to thank Prag, because he touched point on post-promotion analysis. So pre and post promotion analysis is actually one of the key things that gives us an insight or a vision on how successful this promotion was. If it's recorded somewhere, we can always go back to the history and see whether what was the implication, what we actually spent, what's our ROI, did it work or it did not work. So this is key, I believe, and I think that answering, of course, Amir's question, I think we've discussed earlier in the session about forecasting and how to look at the baseline and preempt or in alignment with the different functions, including marketing. Are there any activities, promotions, trade deals, discounts, activations, innovations? And what would be the implication, or how much are we feeding in the demand? Knowing the fact from a sales perspective, there is another exercise which is called the pipeline filling, which actually, if you have a new innovation or promotion, we should we usually communicate with our sales team drop size by retail channel. We usually communicate repeat purchase. We monitor the repeat purchase as well, especially when it comes to innovations. So yeah.
Amazing point.
Thank you, Amir. Thank you, Amir.
Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you.
I think if we come to brag point, Hamamsi, about post promotion, it's a very interesting question because when it comes, I believe most companies that they have a great portfolio or a huge portfolio and a huge ship to points, huge number of customers, it's very, very challenging. Why I'm saying that? It's all about the process, how you are dealing, how you are raising the claims, and how you are allocating the claims when it comes to actualization. Because I guarantee you that when it comes even calculating the gross margin on SQ level, and if you are raising, I would say, the promotions on a format level or a family level, how you will be able to aggregate this or de-aggregate this into a level of SQ. Some people will say, I will take it by, let's say, by the total national level or just by proportional factor, the contribution of the sales. And sometimes it doesn't make sense because you have maybe at the CPG, the same CPG or the format or the family, you have different price points for the same SQ. Maybe you have this, maybe you have a different activity, total activity that it's running the whole SQ specifically for this SQ under this family. So understanding this, I believe it's very essential to calculate the right ROI, because sometimes even you see that the ROI for this promotion is negative. However, it's not because of the calculations that it's happening because
Based
of
on one SKU or
yeah,
two SKUs, while if
exactly.
there are 25 SKUs.
Exactly. This is, yes,
Yeah.
that's why sometimes even you say we will delist this SQ, but actually no, this SQ has a higher gross margin, but due to the miscalculation or the wrong assumption in the process itself, we take wrong decisions, and this SQ got delisted from that.
Well, I actually have a different point. I mean, a different point of view. If one of the SKUs has a high gross margin, yet very slow offtake or very slow distribution, I would actually encourage to try first some tactics. For example, cross promote with the most selling SKU, do a sampling activity. Try to utilize your CDA, contractual binding agreement,
Yes.
together. If you have space in the leaflet that they actually announce or print every month, that you include a picture of it or a picture of a promotion. Give it a shot. It might end up that you find give it more space on shelf.
Yes.
So I would say taking decision on paper is actually, especially with the example you gave, that there is a high gross margin, for example. So let's give it a shot first and see. And I've actually experienced one of the SKUs. We had similar circumstances, and we started, due to the big gross margin, we started cross promoting, and to an extent that we've promoted this specific SKU on its own, and it actually picked up because we induced the trial with the consumer, and it wasn't delisted after all. And you see there is a bit of psychological factor when it comes to salespeople as well. So the sales rep, you'll find him focusing on only the most selling SKUs, putting a bit of less effort on these selling SKUs. So tactics with sales, like for instance, making a specific contest, pushing this SKU, ensuring availability, of course, as well as visibility for this specific SKU might increase the chances of offtake for it, and it might end up not delisting it.
I like the
Great.
yeah.
Great, guys. Experience, yes, of course. This is what we're talking about. It's experience more than knowledge in books, because Hassan passed through a lot of experiences in that. Guys, times is running, but let's take like a couple of more questions, and I have also last question for Hassan. So Agatha here, our friend from Poland, she was talking about legal services marketing. And I have, what's your point of view about legal services marketing, Agatha? I think legal services marketing, if we talk about search engine optimization and that, we're talking about email marketing, creating some content about also legal services. Be present, and social media presence is very important in that. So these are some of the points which came to my head about that. So Hassan, Khaled, if you have anything also to add to Agatha here about legal services marketing.
Sure. I think that Agatha, she's also talking about in another question, what about the price of legal services? Is that it depends
Yeah.
on the client, in your opinion? We use the strategy, but it depends of client possibility. So I'll saying that I'm assuming that she's speaking about how to position your price. I believe from a legality point of view, there are some segments inside the countries you cannot exceed. And Hamamsi also, please share
Yeah.
your experience on that point, especially for pharmacies. You have a specific price that you will not be able to do, or just to raise more than this, because it's illegality. You cannot do this because the government is funding for some specific segments, drugs, all of this. But I believe if you're talking about legal services from consumer goods point of view, it's all about the decision of the company, how you will be able to build the pricing, and how you will be able to have the trade story with your distributor and your retailer. Because at the end of the day, you are controlled by a price index and based on your brand values. If you don't have all of this, I can position. I say I'll have this glass by $1,000. No one will control it from a legal point of view. But will you be able to convince the retailer or distributor to buy it? It's all about logic. But as you said, specifically, there are some segments, drugs and foods sometimes in specific countries. It's all depending on the country regulation from legal point of view. That's my point.
Good points, of course, and let's take also another question here from Shadi. It's a little bit marketing. New wave advertising between competitors impacting positively or negatively, like what happened between BMU and Mercedes. I think here Shadi is talking about the wars that we were talking about, Hassan, that sometimes you remember like BMW will make an ad that they are better than Mercedes. So you remember the 4 keys of Audi, that Audi is putting a key for BMW if you're looking for elegance. So this kind of marketing campaigns, what's your take on it, Hassan?
Well, to be honest with you, if answering specifically regarding the BMW and Mercedes and how did it affect positively or negatively, to be honest, I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
But what I want to say that this part of the world, if we're talking about the Middle East, I mean, there is legal issues if you actually or constraints if you actually compare or contrast other brands together. Yet if we look at the consumer is actually, if you're catering for the needs of the consumer, this is the most important thing. So this type of advertising is actually targeting more the conversion. Converting from a specific brand, or you're a loyal converter from a specific brand to another specific brand. You find that companies, tobacco companies, for instance, it's for tobacco users, it's extremely difficult to shift from a brand to another. They will only shift from a brand to another in case that there is the delivery of this specific cigarette or tobacco is not, or the intake is not, is different. It was something and now it's something else due to quality, due to packaging, due to several reasons. Yet I believe that differential marketing is my own point of view. I don't think it's pretty much impactful. We don't see it much, I mean, globally happening. We find companies, they're utilizing it somehow in some specific times, maybe over the years. If you look at Pepsi and Coke, for instance, McDonald's and Hardee's, for instance, yet it's not something that's actually happening more frequently. So this is my point of view.
I like what you said. It's not converting from to this kind of advertising, which is the truth. Yes. Thank you, Hassan.
Thank you.
Great. We have another here from Mustafa Sliman. He was also one of our colleagues back in Americana. Amazing discussion. What about sales forecasting for e-commerce? He's talking about digital marketing campaign as a push for orders. So
okay, this is a very interesting and a very good question, Mustafa. Regarding the e-commerce, this is something on the rise right now. I mean, if we look around us, when COVID hits, many consumers were thinking many times, is it worth it to go to the store and buy some stuff, or is it much more better to order it online? So I would say that e-commerce platform or lots of platforms out there has been growing drastically, double and triple digit percentages over the past 18 months. So I would say that one of the key points here, digital marketing, of course, it works. Now you have companies that are specialized in, if you're actually, sometimes they say they hear you, you have your phone, you're talking about a certain product, you go online on your Facebook and you find that the shampoo you were talking about with your friend is actually there. Yeah. So as far as forecasting is concerned, if we're talking about special circumstances that happened regarding COVID, it would be very difficult to foresee the forecast, how the forecast will happen, yet you can take trends depending on the past month. There is also another way to look at it. If you're catering for a certain platform, these platforms, they have statistics when it comes to customers or consumers or their customers, how many clicks they've done in a specific category online, what's their actually penetration regarding the section. Let's say, for example, I'm going to talk brands now. So let's say the Souk platform, they have the grocery part or the household part, and they have the other commodities or products that they're selling. So there is always a history when it comes to how many clicks by how many consumers, and basically you can build on this forecast. And I believe on these statistics, and I believe that the e-commerce, it's pretty much direct. And it's pretty much easier. It is very difficult to influence a consumer decision when it comes to one of the modern trade or retail when they walk in, going through their shopping trip. It is very difficult to disrupt the moment of truth where they actually standing behind the shelf or in front of the shelf and picking up. But it's actually easier to influence the consumer when it comes to e-commerce platforms. When they're making an order, you can actually pop up. There's a pop-up saying that you have a certain discount or a certain promotion or a certain offer that you can actually make use of. So I think it's on the rise. It's easier. It's less time-consuming. It's cheaper and it's more practical. So I hope I answered.
I think it's an amazing answer.
Yes. I like what you said, because the pop-up, when you compare it with the flyer in stores, it's totally different. I like what you say also, it's about being cheaper. But how you will be able to penetrate this e-commerce, how you can build the resonating message, and how you understand the behavior of the consumer. This is the game of the company itself. Are they willing or not?
I'd like to thank our friend Pragmat. Actually, his comments are really gold.
Amazing.
Saying it's depending on omni-channel and user-friendly application portals, fast and accurate service like delivery, refunds, and after-service service. Like this is, I think, it's
absolutely
amazing points.
Well, very good answer, Prag. Thank you.
Yes. Guys, we've been going around an hour, but I have like a golden question to ask Hassan at the end of our discussion. And always we were in these debates, and I know Hassan worked through different industries. Hassan, you think the best way to choose a distributor, and what is the best thing to do, is to self-distribute your products or to depend on a distributor? Because the debate was like, self-distribute is you're saving some of the margins, but you are controlling the fleet and the costs of controlling the fleet, or depend on a strong distributor and a strong arm distributor, like he is your partner and you have long-term commitment with him, and he knows the job best. What is the best choice in this? And tell us from your experience in different industries.
I believe that working through a distributor is cheaper. It's cheaper, or at least from the experience that I've been through throughout the past jobs I had with different companies. But the whole idea is there are certain criteria whereby you need to choose a distributor in order to So the number one thing is their sales and marketing capability. Do they have a pre-sell, a hot sell, a channel coverage? Their coverage versus Nielsen is how much. You have to look at their management capability and succession. So when it comes to the human resources, the planning that they have for their human resources, their financial management, succession planning, arrangement in place to continue the distributorship in case of retirement or death of the distributor principal. Premise and location is one of the most important thing. The warehouse capacity, if in case of chillers, the chillers capacity, the depots across the country, the number of sales force, the trucks, the number of trucks, and types of trucks they have. And I believe one of the most important key point as well is the knowledge of the local market. They should have a good relationship with the customers. They should understand the market and understand the trade dynamics and the government dynamics there, and have, of course, a good network. One of the key points as well is the technological capabilities and backbone. What kind of operating systems do they have? SAP, Oracle, using Salesbus, handheld terminals, as well as their financial stability. You can hire a company that actually gives you a credit score, some due diligence on their credit history, their financial position, the size of their business. And of course, the last thing is the legal part, which is basically their commercial registration and how long have they been either paying their taxes or they're not paying their taxes. And one of the most important thing is the portfolio and the strength of the distributor.
Yes.
How many categories? Who are the other principals that are dealing with? What's the size of the distributor? What's the strength of the distributor? The more the distributor has a big portfolio, the easier they will get good deals when it comes to negotiation of CDAs with the customers. 100%. So this is extremely important, I believe, for choosing a distributor.
I think you have to write a book, Hassan.
Yes.
I think that you have the structure. It's not sales only. You're talking about the whole business. Yeah, I love what you touch a point on how you are allocating, how you can see yourself as a supplier to your distributor, because some people they got compelled only by the price or the margin, the agreed margin by distributor, and they found out at the end of the day they are screwed in the service level because the distributor, for them, they are just small fish. They're a small fish inside the distributor, and the distributor is dealing with many suppliers. So when it comes to I would say prioritization in terms of the retail, when they have some challenges in the capacity, at the end of the peaking of the end of the month, how it looks like when they have outbound capacity challenges, when they have some of the transportation capacity challenges, for sure they will prioritize their A suppliers, just to make sure that they are doing. So looking into that thing, it's very important.
I think share of mind, you're pointing towards the share of mind with the distributor. And I believe that in order to succeed, no matter how small you are with the distributor, is that the relationship should be built on win-win relationship.
Yes.
I think that the distributor has the right to understand, and I've actually practiced this, and it delivered good results. Is that when you build a plan and you already set a strategy, whether the strategy is channel-based or market-based, it should be done with the distributor. It's not. It should not be shoved down their throat. It should be. Like a workshop done. So the more level of engagement they have, the more share of mind that they have. And I believe one of the most successful thing is actually having your guy stationed at the distributor. Stationed at the distributor, looking after the business, looking after each and every channel. So
Hassan, I just wanted to add that that's why you were always with the distributor, and the team was always with the distributor, of course.
ruling all the countries of GCC. If you
Yes,
remember.
exactly. That's why you were touring, because it's very important. All the points you hit, actually, all the points that because they are partners, as Pragmat is saying, it's a long ongoing relationship, business, and it's a win-win, like you're saying.
The company will make money, and they will make money as well.
I think we have last question, Hamamsi, from Khaled Madani. He was asking if
I
we
think
can
the question of Khaled Madani was the same, like about online sales and marketing, which we covered with Mustafa Sliman. Of course, Khaled Madani is our great friend and boss. Thank you, of course, for your engagement with us, everyone today. It was a great session that really I don't want to end. A lot of values from Hassan as usual.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. Thank you, Hassan.
Can I add something?
Please.
I want to add a few words. A late wise man who actually passed away last week. So some of his words, and it was actually a bit touchy, I believe. So I want to share them with the audience. So this guy, I'm quoting, unquoting. So this guy said, when you wake up and before you sleep, you need to count your blessings every single day. And be content. Content is a treasure. I'm not saying don't be ambitious, but be content. The content is a treasure that never finishes because it's material. It is not material. It is spiritual. Never give up. Have faith. God is looking after you.
Amazing one.
Amazing. Yes.
Thank you, Hassan, so much.
Again, I really enjoyed the discussion.
Thank you so much.
Great
and I wish
values.
you both gentlemen the best of luck, really.
Please, Hassan, before we close, rethink about writing this book. Seriously, I'm saying it.
Okay, I'll give it a thought. I'll give it a thought. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, everybody who joined us. And thank you for all who ask our questions, of course. And if any questions we didn't answer, we will come to shortly and answer you all. Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you all the global S&OP community.
Thank you, Hamamsi.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Take care. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.